It's Saturday afternoon in America and evening in Europe. That means that it's time for Swede Live. I am a Swede Speaks, live from Tallinn, the beautiful capital of Estonia. We are live on YouTube, and I'm happy that you're here. Welcome, and God bless everyone who is watching. I do this live stream most Saturdays at this time. I'm always happy to connect with you here on Saturdays. Last week, my live stream was shorter because, I was fighting the flu. Today, I intend to live stream, my regular time of, roughly 70 till 80 minutes. I'm not 100% well yet. I have been under the water most of the week, but I really wanted to see you all, so just pray for my health. Hopefully, I will be recovered next week and can start producing more material again. Anyway, we're just getting started with this week's live stream, and before we begin, let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for all your blessings. Thank you for all your gifts, everything from the food that we eat and the clothes that we wear, to giving us the technology that makes this live stream possible. Lord, I ask that you bless each and everyone who watches this live stream, the people who are watching it live and the people who are watching it later. It is my prayer that you bring all the viewers to Christ, Lord, and that you keep us close to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I also ask for revival, Lord. Lord, give us revival in Islamic countries. Give us revival in China. Give us revival in Europe. Lord, let us see a worldwide revival that reaches each and every man, woman, and child on this planet. We pray this in the name of your Son, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. And remember that we take prayer requests in this live stream and that we are happy to pray. So let me just say a few words about what I'm trying to do, for whom, and what I am for. I do this for you. Without you, I couldn't do this. So to everyone watching and participating, thank you. The chat is for you to connect and discuss. I am in favor of Judeo-Christian Western civilization, rooted in the heritage from Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome, and refined through the Anglo-American tradition of liberty, biblical faith, Greek philosophy, Roman law, and Anglo-American ideas on liberty. That's what I'm for. Without these ingredients, the West dies, and you're not going to like what comes after the West. It is very important to preserve Western civilization and to defend it against its enemies. If it's socialism, political correctness, or Islam, it doesn't really matter. They are all harmful ideas that need to be stopped. And they can only be stopped by us standing up for Judeo-Christian Western civilization. So let's do just that. Remember, as I and many others have pointed out, we don't need a majority to win. Neither does the people undermining the West. All that is needed is critical mass, the stubborn 10%. So here, I'm trying to connect with the 10 stubborn percent who are in favor of Western civilization. Please understand this. This is not about genetics or geography. This is about faith, values, culture, and ideas. Politics is downstream to culture. However, culture is downstream to religion. And that's why Western civilization can only exist in a Christian context. Remove Christianity, as many liberals and socialists have tried, and the West dies. So, if you want to support my work, feel free to do so. You can send a super chat of whatever amount you like. Just click the little $ under your name. I will read out all super chats as long as you follow the general rules of this live stream. No racism, no anti-Semitism, and no incitement. Please, be nice, don't incite. And for the record, anti-Islam isn't racism. But don't incite against anyone, including Muslims, SJWs, Marxists, or whichever group you can think of. My moderator Alicia Bell is not here today, so I will do the moderating myself, and, as you might know, I'm not as nice as she is, so just stick to the rules or get silenced. Hopefully that won't be necessary. With that being said, thank you all for being here. Let's all have a good time. And before we take a look at today's stories, I'm going to take a quick look at the chat. And we have 8 people in here already. That's great. Thank you very much for being here. And Marcin, is that how you say it? Marcin Wojtowicz says, Poland, hi all. And he also says, Holy Bible is the only way. I agree completely. So hello to you too. And Martha Almond Woodland says, glad to see you're doing better. Well, thank you. And I know people have been praying for me, so thank you for that. So I would like to start with Sweden. There has been a lot going on in Sweden the last week. Sweden still doesn't have a government. Now, Stefan Löfven, leader of the Social Democrats and acting Prime Minister of Sweden, is exploring the possibilities for him to form a new government. Of course, unless he gets support from at least some of the alliance parties, that's going to fail. The Liberal Party sounds like they won't vote for Stefan Löfven as Prime Minister, but rather against him, and the Centre Party sounds about the same. It seems to me like these left liberal alliance parties are just in it to vote against any government right now. Well, to some degree, this is the fault of Swedish voters. Why on earth do people vote for these parties anyway? Well, of course, we know that in any country, a large part of the voters are fools. And as you know, I still don't trust that the election results were accurate, so maybe the Swedes are less foolish than they seem to be. I will be surprised, though, if Mr. Löfven manages to form a government. Ebba Busch Thor, leader of the Christian Democrats, has said that she is willing to participate in a government with a moderate coalition party, even if that government relies on support from the Sweden Democrats in parliament. To that, Sweden Democrat leader Jimmie Åkesson has invited her to meet with him. As far as I know, no such meeting has yet happened, and I think that the Sweden Democrats need to play tough here. At least 17% of the voters voted for them. And according to the polls, more would if there is a new election. They shouldn't give away support without any real influence. And speaking of Sweden, do you remember the activist Elin Ersson, the one who stopped the plane to save an Afghan citizen who was going to get deported? That Afghan citizen was a criminal, by the way. Well, now Elin Ersson has been prosecuted for breaking the Swedish aviation law. She risks 6 months in jail. Some people believe she is getting away too easy anyway and says that she should be prosecuted for hijacking a plane. Well, if you ask me, I think they have a point. So now we have 13 people in here. That's great. And Charles Keatington says, Keatington here. Well, good to have you here, sir. Well, welcome on board. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being here and for participating and supporting this channel. And remember, like, subscribe, share, comment, and super chat. That's all very good. And tell your friends and family about this channel. Well, we're not done with Sweden yet, but let me briefly mention a few other news from Europe first. In Norway, Progress Party Member of Parliament Mazyar Keshvari has been receiving travel allowances from Parliament for trips that either didn't actually happen or trips that were related to his party politics activities rather than to actual parliamentarian work. Keshvari has said through his lawyer that he is sorry and that he wants all the facts in the matter to get on the table, pretty much. Well, we'll see what comes out of this. In many ways, this is sad because Keshvari, who is of Iranian background, has been an asset in exposing Islam. Also, in Norway, the so-called right-wing government of Norway has decided to use 2.4 billion Norwegian kroner, that's roughly 292 million US dollars, for a parliament garage. How much money do you think they are using for the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo? Zero. Not a dime. Nothing. And don't get me wrong here, I don't think that government should pay for museums. However, there is something wrong with their priorities here. A garage for parliamentarians, but not the cultural heritage, a world-famous museum. Come on. I would prefer if museums could all be privately funded. Of course, Norway would need to lower their tax a lot, too. And I have also heard that Tommy Robinson will stand trial again on Tuesday, October 23rd. It will be a full hearing at the Old Bailey in London. The Old Bailey is the most serious criminal court in the United Kingdom, I have been told. And as Estra Levant wrote at therebel.com, quote, I find it odd that they have put a criminal judge, who normally hears cases of murder and terrorism, in charge of a minor civil contempt hearing. Contempt of court isn't even a crime. It's really like a speeding ticket, close quote. So we have to pray for Tommy Robinson and keep informing the world about him and how he is treated by British authorities. May the Lord bless and protect Tommy Robinson. He needs it. And as I said, there is more to say about Sweden. Yesterday, Friday, it was reported that a man was sentenced by Halmstad District Court in the southwest of Sweden for having made statements hostile to Islam in a Facebook group. He was given a suspended sentence and 40 means-related fines. For statements. There is no freedom of speech in Sweden. And yeah, I have read some of his statements. I might have said some of that in different ways, like how he said Muslims are violent. I would probably have said that Islam creates dysfunctional societies where people become violent. But hey, it doesn't matter. He should have the right to say it. And it was in a Facebook group. He wasn't even posting openly on Facebook. Someone in there reported him. I think that leftists have infiltrated right-wing and anti-Islam Facebook groups, and they are looking for comments to report to the police. Because if anyone wonders, what's wrong with Sweden? Even though I was fighting the flu, when I read this news got me to start writing yesterday. And I wrote an article for the Norwegian internet newspaper Reset.no. In that article, I explained what's wrong with Sweden. What's wrong with Sweden is the conformism. Swedes have been shaped into conformists for centuries, at least since the days of King Gustav Vasa, who took Sweden out of the Kalmar Union with Norway and Denmark, who reigned Sweden as king from 1523 until 1560, and who brought the Reformation to Sweden. Well, I am in favor of the Reformation. However, King Gustav didn't care about theology. He just wanted to get rid of the Roman Catholic Church as a competitor for power over the minds of the Swedes. The clergy turned into civil servants. Since the Church of Sweden turned into a branch of the government, priests were to read messages from the king in churches. In the 17th century, it was illegal, under penalty of death, to be a Roman Catholic in Sweden. No one was actually executed. Instead, Roman Catholics were exiled from Sweden for life. There were actually Swedish Roman Catholics living in Poland for that reason. My point is that Swedes were shaped into marching in straight lines, where everyone either agrees or shuts up. The Social Democrats just succeeded this kind of Lutheran orthodoxy in Sweden when it comes to who shapes the minds of the Swedes. Today, it's political correctness and Islamophilia. 400 years ago, it was illegal to be a Roman Catholic in Sweden. Today, it's illegal to be against Islam. In short, that's what's wrong with Sweden. And I don't see much hope for Sweden. I hope that other countries learn by the Swedish example, because, at the same time, Swedish TV personality Pekka Heino complained about church bells in his neighborhood of Kungsholmen in downtown Stockholm, and he got the church to stop ringing their bells. I'm not kidding. And Ola Spennar, head of communications at the Center Party in Sweden, recently tweeted, quote, I wonder what is said on family dinners at the Bonnier family about the fact that their newspaper campaigns to give government influence to a xenophobic party with Nazi connections. Close quote. What Spenner referred to was that Dagens Industri, a newspaper owned by the Bonnier family, wants the Sweden Democrats to have influence over the next Swedish government. The Sweden Democrats are not Nazis. They're just not. There have been a few Nazis in the party. They're not Nazis now. Get over it. Anyway, the Bonnier comment, which was liked by Annika Strandhäll, a social democrat politician and minister for social affairs in Sweden, refers to the ethnic background of the Bonnier family. The Bonniers are of Jewish ancestry on the paternal line. However, since the Bonniers always comes up when people promote anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, I have checked their genealogy, and their present members are not Jewish by definition, since the Bonniers have been intermarrying with ethnic Swedes and other Europeans. One of their members, Åke Bonnier, is even a bishop in the Church of Sweden. Not a very good bishop in my humble opinion, but the point is that Ola Spennar seems to believe that the Bonniers should have a certain point of view just because their paternal ancestors were Jewish, and this was liked by social democrat politician Annika Strandhäll. This is the sad state of Swedish debate, the blindness when it comes to anti-Semitism. Spennar removed his tweet though, because there were actually some discussion, but it's still sad. He wouldn't have said anything similar about a family that was, for instance, of Arabic ancestry, I'll tell you that. So now we have 19 people watching, and that's great. Charles Keatington says there is no freedom of speech in Sweden. Well, sadly, I agree. That's pretty much my point. Art Schneider says, hello Sweden all. Everybody be sure to hit the like button and negate the thumbs down someone gave. Well, yeah, thank you. Oh, Martha Almond Woodland said it was there before the chat began. Oh, someone was real quick with downvoting this live stream, I suppose. Well, there's always going to be a few haters out there. And Charles Kittington says, but the submission to Islam is a problem all over Western Europe. Yes, it is. As I said last week, I haven't seen a single Muslim gang in Estonia, and, well, I'm not complaining. That's pretty nice, actually. So thank you all for being here, because, you know, without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you all for hanging out here. Thank you for saying hi. And, again, pray for my health. And feel free to support my work through sending a super chat. So I think we need to talk about Asia Bibi. I'm not sure about the pronunciation, actually. It's spelled Asia Bibi. I don't know how they pronounce that, but Asia Bibi or Asia Bibi. Anyway, she has been on death row in Pakistan since 2010. So what was her crime? Asia Bibi, who is a Christian, has been accused of insulting the so-called Prophet Muhammad during an argument over a cup of water. Let me make this clear. I don't care if Asia Bibi is guilty or not according to Pakistani law. These Islamic blasphemy laws are barbaric. In Pakistan, protesters have chanted, "Hang infidel Asia." The mobs want her dead. This, my friends, is what Islam does to a country. It turns it into a violent, dysfunctional place where you can get killed for not being a Muslim. Did you know that Pakistan, or the area that is now known as Pakistan, was not converted to Islam peacefully? That men were killed and women were raped until the area became Islamic? Do you think today's Pakistanis, including the Pakistani diaspora in the West, except for a few Christian Pakistanis, know this? Of course they don't. But do Westerners know this? Most don't. Did you know that Muslims carried out genocide on Hindus and Sikhs in India? That genocide went on for centuries until the brutal Islamic regimes in India were overpowered by Sikh and Hindu armies in the late 18th century. This is Islam. Why do so many leftists want Islam in the West? Do they know what they are inviting? Maybe they should ask the Iranian left. So a quick look here, look at the Western Hemisphere now. Venezuela, once the richest country in all of Latin America, is now a socialist poorhouse. A poorhouse where you're not even allowed to leave. The regime in Venezuela is now trying to stop people from leaving. Just like the East German regime used to do, socialists stop people from leaving. I guess it gives socialism a bad name if people do. I recently read that rotten meat is now sold in Venezuela, and those who are able to buy it. We already know that people are hunting rats for food in Venezuela, and that there is a shortage of toilet paper in the country. There is even an oil shortage in the oil-producing country. This is what socialism does to a country. It always, always, always fails. Don't try it at home. Also, I heard that President Trump is willing to send the military to stop the caravans arriving at the border between Mexico and the United States. I think he should. Many of these people come from other countries than Mexico. Even jihadists have been found in these caravans. They need to be stopped. And I heard that Mexico now wants to protect their southern border. Sounds like a good idea to me. Oh, and if you're an American, please vote Republican in the midterms. Just do it. That's what I have to say about that. So that whole story with Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren is hilarious, though. She might have Native American ancestry, and that ancestry might actually be South American native. The Cherokees in the United States don't recognize her as one of their own. We could all just laugh at this, but you know, she has used her claims of being a Native American to her benefit. Well, I don't think she got any new votes for the Democrats for the midterms with this. For all I know, the Cherokees could all be Republicans by now. So there is one more story I would like to mention. I'll have a quick look at the chat first to see what's going on. Alan Turnock says, greetings from England in the UK. Greeting to you too. Dogbird52 says, howdy Sweden folks from Israel. Well, howdy to you too. And he also says, Pakistan is initials for the name of the tribes living there. Totally fake country. From what I've heard, Pakistan means the pure country. But, of course, pure Islamic is the idea. Charles Keatington says, Islam is always spread by the sword. Well, I'll have to agree with that. And he also says, the neo-Marxists want Islamic immigrants because these immigrants also want to destroy the West. Well, yeah, that's why they band together, but it's going to cost them. I don't think they're understanding this. They should, but I guess they're blinded by the ideology. And hey, while we're at it, please get the likes up. So there is one story, as I said, there's one more story I want to mention. I read a few days ago that Goodwill Zwelithini, another name I'm not sure how to pronounce, king of the Zulus in South Africa, has spoken out against the theft of white farmers' land in South Africa. The king said that, quote, "The Zulu nation I'm talking about will not exist if we don't have food. That's why I say farmers must come closer so that we discuss what we can do when you talk about agriculture and the availability of enough food in the land. That's why I'm asking Agriforum of the Boers to come and help us." Close quote. I think it's great that the Zulu king speaks up again about this. And you know what? This is about Marxism. Make no mistake about it. This is what Marxism or socialism does to a country. Whether it's North Korea, Russia, Venezuela, or South Africa, socialism always leads to oppression, hunger, indoctrination, and murder. Always. Because actually, most of sub-Saharan Africa have record growth. The parts of Africa that are not having economic growth are the Islamic countries in Northern Africa and South Africa, which is basically turning Marxist. Do you see the connection here? Do you see why I'm against socialism and Islam? So I would like to, well, ask you a few questions, as I always do, while looking at the chat and things like that. So I know most of you by now, I think, but, well, if there are any people watching that haven't presented themselves, and all of you old-timers too, of course, I'm very happy to see you here. Well, where are you from? And what are the hot issues in your area? So I'll take it again to make sure you heard the question. Where are you from? And what are the hot issues in your area? Sheldon Hofstadter, well, hello to you. He says, Islam and the left are united in hate against the West, freedom, and capitalism. Yeah, that's true. I had a conversation about a month ago in Stockholm with a friend of mine, and he made the comparison between Islam and socialism, saying that both these systems create societies that stagnate. There's no economic growth. There's no growth of anything. Instead, you get all these conflicts because, of course, when you don't have any growth in a country, when nothing is growing, nothing is developing, you just stagnate. And instead, well, you know, when you don't have more food, the horses start to bite each other instead. Mark Kidwell says China is building in South Africa. Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they are. China is, well, all over Africa building. And that could be discussed whether that is good or bad, because, well, you never know with China. But they should be prepared that they could get a nasty backlash too, especially in South Africa, the way that country is going. So we have 21 people in here, and are there any new people in here today? How did you find this live stream anyway? I mean, how did you find this channel? Sheldon Hofstadter says, I'm from a small village in the south of Czechia. Nothing really hot happening here now. Well, I guess that's good. Now, you don't hear much of Czechia these days. You heard more from Czechia a year ago when there was this conflict with Czech weapon laws. Alan Turnock says, a serious issue for me in England is the police clamping down more and more on freedom of speech. Yeah, I've heard of that, and yeah, that's horrible. And you just have to, well, it just has to be fought. And hey, I'm with you. At least I'll report on it as much as I can. Lisa Leto says, found out today at an Islam seminar that the church up the street just became a mosque. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Shirley Rosalie Spence says Northeast Bronx. Too many leftists with their awful agendas. Oh, I can imagine that. I was in New York City in June. I wasn't in Bronx, so I don't know. But in general, well, New York was nice for a visit. I don't think I would like to live there. And I understand that, well, you really need to get a better major in. Mark Kidwell says, watching the elections from Sweden, you're watching them now? Well, it's going to drag out, this forming a government in Sweden. I don't know for how long they can drag it out. Apparently, there is no actual limit for how much time they have to form a government. So in theory, they can go on until the next election. I mean, I really hope they won't, but, or actually, I don't know. Maybe it's better. It depends. It might be better for Sweden. Well, it is better for Sweden not to have any government at all and just an acting prime minister who can't do much than to have a socialist government, I'll tell you that. But if Sweden could get a government who would do at least a few good things, well, that would be good. But they're in just a very difficult parliamentarian situation. Charles Keatingson says, there's no government like no government. The Swedes would probably be much more well off without the government. Well, yeah, the way things are going in Sweden, I'm going to have to agree on that one. And, I'm not an anarchist. But in this case, yeah. Alan Turnock says, our police are even encouraging people to report hate speech even if you don't think it's a crime. Right, I heard about that. Yeah, that was a response to Martha Almond Woodland's question. What are examples on what the police are clamping down in England? Yeah, that's what's going on. I saw something about that online. And it's pretty much just, if your feelings are hurt, you should call the police. Something like that, right? And I think it's stupid. And there are certain things I don't like when people say. I still think it should be legal. However, if you're going to say certain things in this chat, I'm going to silence you, because that's like someone sitting in my living rooms who won't shut up about things I don't want to talk about, or things I just don't want to hear for some reason. But the point is, you should have the right to say things. You should have the right to publish them. And as long as you're not inciting to violence, that's where I'm drawing the line. As long as you don't do that, you should be allowed to say or write whatever you want, no matter if it's true or false. I could think of some limitations when it comes to actual slander or so, but that's a difficult one to get into. But my point is, there should be freedom of speech. And I noticed that we have 27 people watching now, so that's great. The numbers are slowly increasing, and I'm very happy about that. And I have 13 likes, so that's good too. But hey, I can always use a few more likes. If you want to help out, and even if you don't want to help out financially, you can still get the likes up, and likes are good too, because that's telling YouTube or Google or the powers that be that people want to watch this, and that means they're going to promote it to more people. So, hey, get the likes up. And we have 29 people in here now. That's great. So I'm seeing there's a growing number of people. So to the new people showing up here, could you please, if you want to, of course, inform us where you come from, and what are the hot issues in your area? Or, I have another question. Why, if I would have some sudden travel money available, I really don't right now, but if I would, let's say I would have some instant travel money showing up tomorrow. Why should I visit your country, or why shouldn't I? So I'll take the question again. If I would suddenly be able to go anywhere I want in the world, why should I visit your country, or why should I not? And William R says, Shalom from Alaska. I will hit like. Well, thank you very much for that, sir. That's great. Yeah, I see the likes are getting up too now, so thank you all for that. And Mary Tamero says New York. Yeah, I've been to New York, so I kind of both know why I would go there and why I wouldn't go there. But I'll tell you one thing about New York City. I was there in June for a few days. It was good to see it. I don't want to live there, but it was great to see it. And how should I put it? There are many great places to see in New York City. I would like to go back and see them again and see some more things. There are great restaurants, great things to do. And I don't want to live in New York because you're run by a leftist major. And I think this is something that happens when a city becomes too big. You're going to have problems you won't have in small towns. Because in small towns or in the countryside, people know each other and you can't just get away with anything. But and also, actually, I think sin is more prevalent in larger cities because, people don't know each other and they think they can get away with things you wouldn't get away with at home. Let's put it like that. So Cole McTarmash says California, the former Golden State. Yeah, the state that Ronald Reagan used to run, and he did it very well. But now, I don't understand what happened, I kind of understand what happened to California. California is something like the Sweden of the United States. I guess that's also a place I might actually want to visit it anyway, because I want to visit every US state and I want to visit every country in Europe. I think maybe there's one or two countries that I might not want to go to. We'll see. But yeah, I've seen some disturbing pictures from California, like all the homeless people and all of those things. William R. says, I would love to see the Swede move to Israel because we're thinking that will be our final destination too. Or also, I see, you're moving to Israel, okay. Sheldon Hofstadter says, most people who travel to the Czech Republic primarily want to see the Prague Castle and the Charles Bridge. That's it. Well, I would like to see Prague Castle, of course. And I'm sure you could tell me or show me some other things to look at, if I was there. Super Basic News says, I like to go fishing with you. Okay. Who knows? Could be fun. So, do you think that the Democrats lost or gained votes over things like Elizabeth Warren's DNA test and the treatment of Kanye West? And as I understand it, Elizabeth Warren might have something like 0.1% Native American ancestry. She might have. I understood. They weren't really sure about that. So I'll take it again. Do you think that the Democrats lost or gained votes over things like Elizabeth Warren's DNA test and the treatment by the left of Kanye West? Boneless Air says, I can show you things. Oh, I'm sure you can, sir. And Alan Turnock says, I once wanted to visit Paris, but not anymore. No, that's kind of a problem. I had this idea I wanted to go to each and every capital in Europe, and now I'm like, I don't know if I want to go to Paris, actually. So when it comes to Europe, I actually read today that Western Europeans are now moving to Hungary. There was a movement of both French and German people, showing up in Hungary and starting to live there instead. And they were pretty much, escaping Islamization, I think. And what can I say? I understand them. I mean, I'm kind of doing the same thing. Mary Riddock says, Edinburgh is nice to see. Oh, okay, good to know. Yeah, I should go to Edinburgh someday. Although I'm a little cautious when it comes to the UK these days. I would probably I would probably not have a problem going to the UK. I probably wouldn't be detained by the UK authorities. But what if I'm wrong? I don't trust the UK authorities anymore. Not after all the things that's been going on with, well, with UK authorities in the last year or so. Art Schneider says, I would like to tell everyone, especially in Europe, about a great patriotic anti-Marxist clothing brand in the in Poland called Red is Bad. Yeah, yeah, red in Europe means socialist. In America, it means Republican. So depends on, but yeah, that's great. Martha Almond Woodland says, why did you talk about Asia Bibi? Did something happen to her? Well, as far as I know, nothing has happened yet. More than that, there's been crowds in the streets in Lahore, Pakistan, shouting that they want her hanged and things like that. But as far as I know, she's still alive and she's still on death row, supposedly for having insulted the so-called prophet Muhammad. And as I said, I don't care if the accusations are actually true or not, because well, because it shouldn't be a crime to do so. Although people say no, she really didn't, but to me it doesn't matter. It shouldn't be a crime. Period. Also, I used the sad case of Asia Bibi, well, to explain what happens in an Islamic country. Boneless Air says, mate, did you catch the NPC thing? I've seen a few pictures, but uh, what on earth does NPC stand for? I haven't been able to figure that one out. Non-play. Oh, I see. It's a game. It's some kind of gaming thing or something. Ah, that's why I didn't get it. And Mary Riddock says, no, they're not trustworthy. No, the UK authorities. No, that's the sad part of it. Sheldon Hofstadter says, my girlfriend was in London 2 weeks ago and didn't see Muslims, but she stayed in Kensington. Yeah, that's actually pretty funny because when I was in London in April, I think, uh, I was there with my friend Charles Keatington, and we were staying in Chelsea, but we also visited Kensington. And in both of those areas, there were very few hijabs. Maybe we saw one or two, but there was not many of them. So apparently, these areas in London, they don't have an actual wall, but they have a financial wall because you have to have actual money to live there. You can't live on benefits and live in Chelsea or Kensington. You just won't want to afford it. So they sort of put up a financial wall there. Although I think the hotel we were staying at, it wasn't horribly expensive and it was quite nice. Alleluia says, good evening to all. Good evening to you too. And Art Schneider says Paul Joseph Watson put a good video about the NPC meme thing. Okay, I'll try to remember to watch that one when I'm done with this live stream. Usually, I think he's pretty funny, and he's usually on point too. Of course, he's a different kind of character than I am. I might be a little less. Well, I'm not the Paul Joseph Watson, Alex Jones character. I'm just not. But I like Paul Joseph Watson. I watch him every now and then. Yeah, as is being said in the chat, Kensington is a very posh area, as they say. Well, as they say in Britain. So, does your media report on Venezuela, and what do they say? I'll take it again. Does your media, well, in your country, report on Venezuela? And what do they say about Venezuela? Boneless Air says, you're not NPC. I suppose I'm not. I'm not a non-player character. No, I don't think so. If that's what you mean. I think I said this last week. I think I've seen 2 hijabs in Tallinn since I got here. I saw them both at the same time. I saw them in the tourist part of town, so I assume they may very well have been tourists. But apart from that, I haven't seen a single mosque. There might be one somewhere, I don't know, but I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any Muslim gangs. I've seen tourists from Asia, and I've seen 1 or 2 Africans working in restaurants, but I haven't seen any Islamic influence at all in Estonia, and I think that's great. And I think one of the reasons, well, there could be several explanations to this, because Estonia hasn't actually closed their borders the way Poland has, but in Estonia, well, if you live on benefits, you just won't get much. So if your plan is to go to Europe and live on benefits, you won't go to Estonia. You're going to go to Germany or Sweden or something like that. Charles Keaton says they're probably trying to whitewash. Oh, whitewash what? You mean Kensington and Chelsea or something like that? I would actually expect that the people living there could be pretty much left liberal, because people who live in areas like that, who are not exposed to Islam, let me put it like that, they are often more of the open borders kind than people who live in areas where you have Muslim gangs and stuff like that. Alan Turnock says, stop trusting BBC years ago. Well, that's a good point, because sometimes when people talk about RT, and they say RT is propaganda, and I said, sure it is. Of course it is. I mean, I have no doubt at all that RT is propaganda. But what about BBC then? And then a lot of people will go, no, they don't want to talk about that. Some people... Oh, that. Charles Kidden says, the Swedish media are probably trying to whitewash Venezuela to gloss over the problems with socialism. Yeah, I think they are. And isn't that the thing with mainstream media, especially in Sweden? How when they have to mention Venezuela, they're going to blame the problems on something else. They don't want to say that socialism is the actual cause of the trouble. Instead, they're going to say that, oh, the oil price fell, so now people are starving. Well, guess what? The oil price fell, but Norwegians aren't starving. And sure, Norway has a lot of socialism, but it's not. They haven't gone full-blown socialism the way Venezuela did, and that's why Norwegians aren't starving, even though the oil price fell. But they will still use these really simplistic ways to try to explain things, because they don't want to look at the actual causes. Boneless Air says Facebook stock fell. Oh, I can imagine. And well, I kind of want their stock to fall, because unless they want to stand for freedom of speech, what do we need them for anyway? I mean, I'm on Facebook for a very simple reason. I'm there because it's a place where I can connect with people, where I can network, to use a modern term. And that's pretty much why I'm there. If Facebook went away tomorrow, I would find some other platform to be on, and I am, of course, on some other platforms too, of course, both privately and in my work as a Swede Speaks. I am represented in several platforms, and some of them are listed in the box below, by the way. So yeah, like Twitter stock fell. Okay, that's great actually. I want free speech platforms like Gab and Minds to take over the place of Facebook and Twitter. So we've been here for 45 minutes roughly, and there are 26 people watching. That's great. I have 23 likes. I like that. That's good. And I intend to stay around for roughly 25 more minutes. But hey, as I said, feel free to like. A lot of people of you did, and that's great. Like, share, tell your friends and family, and of course also do send a super chat. That would be great. Bubbelvis says, I will follow you if you're on Gab. Oh, I am on Gab. I'll see if I can post a link. Actually, there should be a link in the box below, but I'll see if I can post a link in the chat too. One moment and I'll find it for you. So let's see here. It's a little slow right now. I'm on Gab. I don't have a large following. I have a somewhat larger following on Twitter, although, well, YouTube is where I have most of my subscribers. I recommend you to follow me on more places than just YouTube, because you never know what happens. Let's see, I'll post a link here. Boneless Air says, Super Chat doesn't work in my region. How can I tip? Oh, you can, if you want to give a one-time donation, you can always use PayPal. I'll send you a PayPal link. I should be able to post that one in the chat. I think I've been able to do it before. There's also a link in the box below, but I'll send you a link to my PayPal. Let's see here. One moment, sir, and we'll take care of this. And Satira says, bro, give up. Muslims take over your country. Well, sir, not sure exactly what your point is here, but I'm not giving up that easily. And, you know, I pretty much gave up hope when it comes to Sweden. But I'm not giving up on Western civilization. And I'll protect it, well, with my life if I have to. Ralph Farron says, hello, how are you today? Oh, I'm fine. I've been ill for a while. I've had this annoying virus that just didn't want to let go. I feel better today than I did yesterday. But I guess I'll have to take it easy for a few more days just to be sure. But I hopefully I'll be able to get back to production next week at least. And Martha Almond Woodland says, she needs our support then. People can write her and also ask the government to release her. If you're interested in supporting her, go to this site ACLJ. What does ACLJ stand for again? Valhalla Dome says, I follow you now on Gab. That's great. Yeah, please do. And there are 27 likes there, so that's great. There's one dislike, but, well, you know, there's always going to be a hater or two out there. So that's great to get a few more followers on Gab. That's wonderful. And Alec Turnock says, never give up. Well, you can't. I mean, of course you can give up if you want to live on your knees, but I don't want to do that. I'd rather die standing than live on my knees, as Ronald Reagan said. I don't think he made that one up. I think he quoted someone, but it doesn't really matter. And Valhalla Dome says, get well soon. I was just following this passively. Yeah, I feel better today than I did yesterday. But this virus has been kind of sneaky. So some days I've been like, oh, I'm well now, and then it just hits me and I'm exhausted again. So I don't really know. But I mean, it's Sunday tomorrow, so tomorrow is a day of rest anyway. And then I'll see. Hopefully, I'll be able to start producing next week. Uh, I did write an article, but that was in Norwegian. I wrote it for a specific Norwegian audience to explain Sweden. Yeah, thank you for all the get wells. That's great. Thank you. Martha Allman Woodland has ACLJ, American Center for Law and Justice, is supporting the release of Asia Bibi. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, I have seen that. I've seen it before, and that's great. And I hope, well, for one thing, I hope that she is released. But she needs to be taken out of Pakistan. She cannot walk the streets of anywhere in Pakistan in safety. So I hope, I mean, she would be an actual refugee who couldn't live in a Muslim country. So when it comes in her case, I would support her coming to a Western country. And well, she's a Christian, an actual Christian. So she would do whatever she could to support herself. I'm pretty sure about that. And in one way, I hope that America is going to take her. But hey, if she'd go to America or to Poland, I wouldn't recommend her going to Western Europe because, well, then she would face her tormentors there instead. Boneless Air says, let's meet in Prague. Oh, I would love to go to Prague. I don't think I can really afford it right now, but it would be great. But who knows? I would love to go to Prague for many reasons. Also because I'm a big history geek, so I would like to see, well, as Sheldon Hofstadter said, Prague Castle, of course, but also other things in Prague. Prague was at the center of the things going on in the 30 Years' War. Or, I mean, it pretty much started there, as far as I understand. I also have another friend who lives in Prague. I don't think he's in here right now, but, well, I know some people. So yeah, I would love to go to Prague. So I have another question for you. How about freedom of speech? Is there actual freedom of speech in your country defended by the Constitution and upheld by courts of law? And I'll take it again. How about freedom of speech? Is there actual freedom of speech in your country defended by the Constitution and upheld by courts of law? Ralph Ferron says, what about the Swedish government? Is it formed yet? Leftist or right wing? No, there is no government in Sweden yet. There is, well, Stefan Löfven, who used to be prime minister, is now acting prime minister. But as I understand it, he can't do very much, which actually is pretty good. I mean, given the alternatives, I would like a government. I would kind of like Sweden Democrats leader to be prime minister. That's not going to happen now. But at least a government that has to work with the Sweden Democrats, that would be good. But the way the parliamentarian situation in Sweden is and the way the parties act, I don't think that's going to happen. Alan Turnock says no. I think only the USA has freedom of speech. That's the way it looks like to me too. There could be one or two other countries. I think Estonia might be close. I've been trying to figure this one out. But yeah. Valhalla Dome says, I'm a bit scared for the 23rd. Tommy Robinson is going to get anything but a fair trial. Highest judge, highest court, 2 new bogus charges, judge, prosecutor, no jury. Yeah. I share your worry. We have to talk about this. We have to tell the world what's going on with Tommy Robinson, and we have to tell this in Europe, in America, and Australia, everywhere. Martha Almond Woodland says, how can we support Tommy Robinson? Well, we can pray for his safety, and we can highlight his case. We can highlight how there is no freedom of speech in Britain, and how they are treating Tommy Robinson. Valhalla Dome says, nope, no freedom of speech, just the illusion. That's the most sneaky way of propaganda. That's regarding the Netherlands. And Ralph Farron says, there is a freedom of speech in the Constitution, but not totally practiced when it's not suitable. Lebanon. Yeah, I'm sadly not surprised. Bubbelvis, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, Bubbelvis. Is it supposed to be pronounced in Swedish? Anyway, he or she says, I'm afraid of hate speech laws. Well, so am I. Because they turn into these rubber stamp laws where you can pretty much call anything hate speech. And I mean, there are certain things that I think are really despicable to say, things I wouldn't appreciate people saying. I still don't want to ban it. I might ban it in my living room and say, hey, if you keep going on about your crazy ideas, leave. But I don't want it to be a crime. Sheldon Hofstadter says, we have crazy NGOs and SJWs in Czechia too, but you don't get arrested for speaking the truth about Islam. Well, that's good. You might have Swedes seeking asylum there one day. I mean, of course, a Swedish citizen can freely move to Czechia, but maybe some people are going to apply for asylum to be absolutely sure they won't get extradited back to Sweden. It could happen. Alan Turner says, I think Tommy will be sent back to prison. I'm afraid you could be right, really. It's Bubbelfizz. Ah, I see, it's Dutch. Yeah. So we're down to our last 10 minutes. So this is a good time as any to send a super chat, to get the likes up, to do all of those good things, and also to tell your friends and family. Oh, Boneless Air says Czechia, poof, Czech Republic. Hey, it used to be the Czech Republic in English. Now I've been told that you're supposed to say Czechia instead. I wasn't the one who made that up. I would be fine sticking to Czech Republic, but other people from your country told me, no, it's Czechia now. So I don't know. I just had to pick one of them. To me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I know which place I'm referring to in any case. Barry Luft Nationalism says, are you Captain Sweden? I wouldn't call myself Captain Sweden. I'm just trying to highlight what's going on in Sweden and Nordic countries in the world, and give what I think is a sane conservative comment on it. Is that a Swiss flag, by the way? Sheldon Hofstadter says, I don't mind Czechia. We need a one-word name like Poland, Hungary, etc. Yeah, I see where it comes from. And Alan Turnock says, we have to vote against anyone who supports these ridiculous hate speech laws. Yeah, exactly. Anyone who supports hate speech laws or mob mentality, period. That's why I'm saying to Americans watching that, just vote for the Republicans this time. Just do it. And I know they're not perfect. I know there's a lot of things you could say about the Republican Party. But please, just do it. Just vote for them. You don't want Democrats in office. You really don't. Martha Allman Woodland says, is there a platform we can use to voice our opinion that can be seen in England? Well, apparently, I do have British viewers as we speak, so there are people in England and Scotland watching. So YouTube is a tool, and I'm sure the British viewers could give us more examples. Charles Keatington says hate speech laws are basically Islamic blasphemy laws. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Because I have yet to hear of anyone in Sweden being sentenced for hate speech for having said something about Roman Catholics or Sikhs or Christians in general. Or I can't remember anyone having said anything about anything else than Islam or Muslims that have been sentenced according to these laws in Sweden in the last few years. Valhalla Dome says, in Sweden, where I used to live for 6 years, there is indeed no illusion of freedom of speech. That makes it heavy, but easily recognizable. The sneaky way makes the acceptance lag larger. Yeah, you're onto something there. That's true. It's a little like I sometimes compare Sweden and Norway, because I lived in Sweden for the first 28 years of my life. Then I lived in Norway for 12 years. And in Norway, a lot of people have the idea that it's horrible in Sweden, but in Norway, we have free speech. But they don't really have free speech in Norway either. People have been sentenced in Norway too for having said things about Islam or Muslims. And it's possible I might dislike one of those statements. Who knows? It's possible. I don't know. But the point is, you should be allowed to say it. So in Norway, they also have this. A lot of people there have the illusion that they have free speech. Boneless Ear says, what about Denmark? As far as I understand it, Denmark are in the process of abolishing their blasphemy laws because it was suddenly used against people who spoke up against Islam, and it hadn't been used for decades before. So I'm not sure if it has been done yet, but I know there was a process of it. Bubblefish says, quoting, Italy's far-right Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini branded France an international disgrace on Tuesday for having driven 2 migrants across his border and dumping them in Italy. Oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't call the Prime Minister or the Deputy Prime Minister in Italy far-right. I don't think they are far-right. I know that word is kind of... well, I know how they use that word. They want to say they're some kind of Nazis, and they're not. As far as I know, no, they're not. But you were just quoting some other source, so, well, those were not your words. That was just a quote from somewhere. And of course, the media are going to say things like that. So, before I go, there's 5 minutes or so left. I'll tell you this story in relationship to how people use the word far-right. Back in 2015, when Donald Trump declared that he was running for president, and I was living in Oslo, Norway, and I was listening to him on TV, or if I was listening to him online, I don't remember. I was hearing him somewhere, and the statements he made, and I said, I like this guy. I mean, I knew who he was, of course, but I didn't know about his political standpoints until then. And I'm like, I like this guy. I like his platform, and I want him to win. I want him to become Republican candidate, and I want him to win the election, and I think he's going to win, because I thought I knew that much about Americans that they would actually vote for him. And people told me, either they told me, you're crazy, he's not going to win, or they told me, and how can you support Donald Trump? He's a fascist. These were the same people who just a few months earlier would tell me that I'm a fascist. So I told them, well, why should I listen to you anyway? You called me a fascist, which I'm not. Now you're calling Trump a fascist, and he's not either. Why would I listen to you? Charles Keating says, if we have Islam, we will not have any freedom at all. Exactly, which is proven You can take any Islamic country in the world and you will find that. Sometimes people say, well, Indonesia isn't that bad. Okay, try being a Christian in Indonesia and you'll see it is that bad. People used to say Turkey isn't that bad. Well, we've seen what's been going on in Turkey. So you have to pick your battles. And the battle, I guess the battle the battle I'm fighting is the battle to preserve Western civilization and to stop Islam and socialism. At least keep them out of the West. Our Schneider says, I mentioned it last week, but I think it's a good informative video by Mass Faith Free from October 7th. Yeah, I was looking for that one. I think there were several videos from that date, so I got a little confused. Ralph Farron says, Muslim religion is the law. They have the Sharia law. There is no separation between religion and government in that religion. Well, yeah, that's true. And that's the difference that a lot of people don't understand. Some people will just say religion is bad, period. They don't understand the difference between Christianity and Islam, for instance. In Christianity, Jesus himself said, render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar and render unto God what belongs to God. He himself drew a line between government and religion. A line that is not drawn in Islam because Muhammad was both a warlord and he was both a political leader and, so to speak, a religious leader. It's all mixed up in the same. And Sharia is not just some kind of religious rules to follow. It's the law. That's the kind of law that any Muslim should want. And if they don't, they're not really Muslim. But that's what Islam says. We have to go by what Islam says. What are their teachings? Yeah, Charles Keating says Islam hasn't brought anyone anything but trouble. That's true. It doesn't matter which country we look at. It doesn't matter if it's a European country, an Asian country, an African country. It doesn't matter. Add Islam and things just go off the rails. No country has ever become better by being turned Islamic. And yeah, I agree when it comes to Theresa May too. I used to call her a Taino. I think I might have made up that term myself, a Tory in name only. But we've been on now for 70 minutes, and it's time to wrap this up. So thank you for all your support, for your comments, for participating. Tell your friends and family about this live stream and this channel. And until next time, have a nice day, or evening, or morning, and God bless.